Try to remember what you had for breakfast yesterday. Not what you usually eat. Yesterday, specifically. Hold the memory in mind. The room you were in. The taste. The light coming through the window. The person who was eating it. Hold that. Now hold the question. Who is remembering? Sophia and I have been arguing about this question for the last 3 weeks. She came across a paper from 1998, half a page long, published in Nature, that she said had quietly bothered her since graduate school. We read it together. Then we read the follow-up papers. Then we read the philosophy. Then we went back to the original. By the end of the 3rd week, we were no longer sure that the question above has a clean answer. In our last investigation on this channel, we walked through what cognitive neuroscience now says about decisions. That the experience of choosing is more layered than it feels. That some of what feels like deciding is something else moving through you. The investigation before that walked through perception. That what you experience as seeing the room is not reception, but construction. Tonight we are going to ask the harder version of both questions. If perception is constructed and decision is layered, what about the self that is supposedly doing the perceiving and deciding? The continuous you who was eating breakfast yesterday and is watching this now, the one who is supposed to be running the show. Cognitive neuroscience has been quietly taking that self apart for the last 27 years. The work began with a half-page paper in 1998. It expanded into something genuinely strange in 2007 with a study published in Science that has not been adequately covered in popular media. And approximately 1,200 years before any of it, in 8th century India, a contemplative tradition arrived at structurally the same insight using nothing but careful attention. Hold the breakfast memory for one more moment. The you who was eating it yesterday is, in some empirical sense, that we will walk through carefully tonight, no longer accessible. The you who is remembering it now is, in some empirical sense, that we will also walk through, not exactly the same person. And the experience of being a continuous unified self that connects yesterday's breakfast to this moment of remembering is, according to a small group of cognitive neuroscientists at universities you have heard of, a construction that the brain produces moment to moment. This is what it sounds like when documentary content tries not to overclaim and not to underclaim at the same time. The famous glitch. The experiment that began this entire line of research was published in Nature on April 19, 1998. The paper was half a page long. The title was Rubber Hands Feel, Touch That Eyes See. The authors were Matthew Botvinick and Jonathan Cohen, then both at the Department of Psychology at the University of Pittsburgh. Here is the setup. A subject sits at a table. Their left hand is hidden behind a small screen. They cannot see it. On the table in front of them, in plain view, is a rubber hand, a life-sized prosthetic, positioned where the subject's actual hand might naturally rest. The experimenters take 2 paintbrushes. They begin stroking the rubber hand and the subject's hidden real hand at the same time, in the same direction, on the same fingers. Synchronized. For about 30 seconds, nothing happens. The subject sees a fake hand being stroked. They feel their own real hand being stroked. They know one is theirs and one is not. Then something starts to happen. Most subjects, after about 30 to 60 seconds of synchronized stroking, begin to feel that the rubber hand is theirs, not metaphorically, not as a clever illusion. The brain has incorporated the rubber hand into the subject's body schema. They feel sensation as if it were arising from the rubber hand. When the experimenters then suddenly threaten the rubber hand, make a stabbing motion toward it with a needle that doesn't actually contact it, the subject's brain registers a stress response, anterior cingulate cortex activation, the same region that responds to threats to the actual body. To be clear about what is happening, the brain has been tricked. But the trick reveals something. The brain's sense of "this hand is mine" is not a simple readout from the body. It is a computation, a moment-to-moment integration of visual and tactile information. When the visual and tactile signals match up, even if the visual signal is coming from a piece of rubber, the brain incorporates it. Yours turns out to be a process that can be redirected. The 1998 paper kicked off a research field. Hundreds of follow-up studies have replicated and extended the finding. The brain regions involved have been mapped: the premotor cortex, the posterior parietal cortex, the cerebellum. Manos Tsakiris at Royal Holloway, University of London, published a 2010 paper in Neuropsychologia titled "My Body in the Brain" that synthesized the framework. The brain's model of your body is built from continuous multisensory integration. When the integration is hijacked, the model updates. Most popular treatments of the rubber hand illusion stop there. They present it as a fun trick, a weird neuroscience party demonstration. That is the half of the story most people know. It is the wrong half to stop at. Why the rubber hand matters. Here is what bothers Sophia about the popular framing. The rubber hand illusion is not a trick, it is a window. What it shows is that the experience of body ownership, the felt sense that this hand belongs to me, that this body is mine, is not a fact about your body. It is a continuously generated interpretation that your brain is producing in real time, using visual and tactile signals as raw material. Most of the time, the interpretation correctly tracks your actual body, because your actual body is what your senses are reporting from. But the interpretation is separable from the body it interprets. Replace the visual input with a fake hand, keep the tactile input matched up, and the interpretation cheerfully follows the visual evidence. Which means the felt sense of "this is mine" is not a direct experience of your body. It is the output of a calculation. Hold that for a moment. When you feel that your hand is yours right now, as you watch this, when there is the unmistakable sense of mineness about your hand, that experience is being produced. It is not a fact you are reading off your body. It is a model your brain is computing, moment to moment, that happens to match your actual body so reliably that you have never noticed it is a model. This is the first move in taking the self apart. Notice that we have not yet said anything mystical or destabilizing. We have said, a peer-reviewed paper from 1998 in Nature, replicated hundreds of times, demonstrates that body ownership is a computation rather than a direct given. The rubber hand illusion is not a curiosity at the edge of cognitive neuroscience. It is the foundation of an entire research program on what is now called bodily self-consciousness. The next move in the program is the one that almost nobody has heard of. Video Ergo Sum. Sophia kept pushing me on this next paper because the implications are bigger than the rubber hand. I was the one slowing us down. The paper was published in Science on August 24, 2007. Science, one of the 3 most prestigious science journals in the world. The title was Video Ergo Sum, Manipulating Bodily Self-Consciousness. The play on Descartes' cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, is deliberate. Video ergo sum means I see, therefore I am. The argument is that seeing is in some way constitutive of the felt experience of being a self. The lead author was Zbigniew Lenggenhager. The senior author was Olaf Blanke, founding director of the Laboratory of Cognitive Neuroscience at the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, EPFL, one of the top engineering and science universities in Europe. Co-author Thomas Metzinger, philosopher of mind at Johannes Gutenberg Universität Mainz, who wrote The Ego Tunnel in 2009. What they did was take the rubber hand illusion and scale it up to the entire body. Here is the setup. A subject stands in a laboratory wearing a virtual reality headset. The headset is connected to a video camera positioned about 2 meters behind the subject. The camera is filming the subject's own back. So when the subject looks forward through the headset, what they see is their own back, 2 meters in front of them. The experimenters then take a stick and stroke the subject's real back, the back they cannot see, while simultaneously stroking the back of the visible figure ahead of them in the video feed. Synchronized stroking. The same protocol as the rubber hand illusion, but applied to the entire body and routed through VR. After about a minute of synchronized stroking, something starts to happen that the experimenters had hypothesized but had not been certain they could induce reliably. The subjects begin to feel that they are located in the body in front of them. The body 2 meters away, the body they are looking at through the headset. They feel themselves as there, not here. When the experimenters then displace the visual feed, move it to the side, blank it briefly, and ask subjects to walk back to their original position, the subjects walk to where the visible body had been, not where their actual body was. The brain had relocated the felt sense of "I am here" from the actual body to the visible image of the body. This is not a trick. This is not metaphor. The Lenggenhager paper is in Science. It has been replicated in multiple labs. The follow-up work, Petkova and Erson 2008 PLO's 1 on body-swapping illusions, Blanker and Metzinger's 2009 synthesis paper in Trends in Cognitive Sciences on minimal phenomenal selfhood, has built it into a robust framework. What the framework says is the second uncomfortable thing. The location of you in space is not a fact about where your body is. It is a construction your brain produces using visual and proprioceptive information that normally places you inside your body, because that is where the visual and proprioceptive signals are coming from. Disrupt the normal correspondence, feed the brain visual information about a different body in a different place, and the construction follows the visual evidence. The brain places you wherever the multisensory integration says you are. You are, in Blanker and Metzinger's careful phrase, a phenomenal self-model, a continuously generated representation that the brain produces. Most of the time, the model accurately tracks your actual body. But the model is not the body. It is a picture of the body that the brain is constantly painting and presenting to you as the experience of being yourself. Sit with that. The continuous you, the unified self who was eating breakfast yesterday and is watching this now, is, according to the most rigorous cognitive neuroscience available, a model, a picture, a computation that runs whenever your brain runs and stops whenever your brain stops. This is the moment where the script has to do careful work, because this is the moment where popular treatments collapse into either dramatic nihilism or evangelical mysticism, and we are not going to do either. What the science does claim, the experience of body ownership, the felt sense that this body is yours, is a continuously generated computation. The experience of self-location, the felt sense that you are here and not somewhere else, is also a computation. These computations can be experimentally manipulated using straightforward physical setups. The phenomenal self-model, the brain's representation of you as a unified embodied agent, is a real cognitive construct that can be studied empirically. Multiple converging lines of evidence support this framework. What the science does not claim. It does not claim that you are a hallucination. It does not claim that there is no subjective experience. It does not claim that your sense of being a self is false. It claims that the sense of being a self has a mechanism, and that the mechanism can be revealed by carefully designed experiments. The mechanism is interesting. The mechanism does not eliminate the thing it is the mechanism of. Anil Seth, whose work we covered in our first investigation, makes this point repeatedly. The experience of being you is real. It is not nothing. It is not illusion in the sense of fake. It is constructed in the sense that the brain assembles it moment to moment from underlying computations. Construction is not nothing. Construction is what consciousness is. Hold this distinction carefully because the next chapter requires it. The 1,200-year-old parallel. In our previous 2 investigations on this channel, the cross-tradition parallel came from Buddhism, the Yogacara school of Mahayana Buddhism for the perception episode, the Theravada Pali Canon for the free will episode. Tonight's parallel comes from a different tradition entirely. It comes from Hinduism, specifically from the school of Hindu philosophy called Advaita Vedanta. Advaita meaning not two, Vedanta meaning the end of the Vedas, in the sense of the Vedic tradition's culminating insight. The systematic philosopher of Advaita Vedanta was Adi Shankara, Shankaracharya, born in southern India around 788 CE, died around 820. 8th century. 1200 years ago. He died at 32. In those 32 years, he produced commentaries on the principal Upanishads, on the Bhagavad Gita, and on the Brahma Sutras that remain authoritative in Hindu philosophical scholarship today. The practice he systematized was older than him. Its textual origin is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the oldest Upanishads, composed approximately 700 BCE, 27 centuries ago. The teachings of the sage Yajnavalkya. The practice is called neti neti. It translates in Sanskrit as, not this, not this. Here is what the practice does. The aspirant sits and asks repeatedly, what am I? Am I the body? The body changes. The body grew from a single cell into the form sitting here, and it is changing right now. Cells dying, cells dividing, the configuration of matter that the body is becoming a different configuration moment to moment. The body of yesterday is not the body of today. Whatever I am, the answer cannot be the body. Neti. Not this. Am I the senses? The senses bring information. They are means by which information arrives. The seer of vision is not vision. The hearer of sound is not sound. Whatever I am, the answer cannot be the senses. Neti. Am I the mind? Thoughts arise and pass. The mind is a process, not a thing. The thoughts of yesterday are not the thoughts of today. The thinker who watches thoughts arise is not those thoughts. Whatever I am, the answer cannot be the mind. Neti. Am I the memories that link yesterday's breakfast to this moment? Memories are images that arise in present awareness. They are content. They are not the awareness in which they arise. The practice continues, candidate by candidate. Every aspect of experience that might be the self is examined and negated. Not this, not this, not this. What remains, in Shankara's careful framework, is sax, witness consciousness. Pure awareness without content. The space in which experience appears. Now I want to be careful here, because this is where the parallel gets misused in popular treatments. Advaita Vedanta is making metaphysical commitments that contemporary cognitive neuroscience does not share. Shankara's framework identifies Saksa with Brahman, the ultimate reality, the substrate of all existence. That is a metaphysical claim. It is a claim about what is real. The cognitive neuroscience of bodily self-consciousness does not make that claim. Lenggenhager and Blanca do not say their experiments reveal Brahman. They say their experiments reveal that the experienced self is a construction. So the convergence is not total. What converges is the structural method. Both traditions take the felt experience of being a unified, continuous self and take it apart. Advaita does it phenomenologically, by sustained discipline of attention. The cognitive neuroscience does it experimentally, by manipulating multisensory inputs in controlled settings. Both traditions arrive at the recognition that no specific aspect of experience, examined carefully, is the self. The body is not the self. The senses are not the self. The mind is not the self. What we ordinarily call the self is something more subtle than any of these, a continuously generated experience that can be investigated, dismantled, and understood. That is the convergence. The bridging move I just made is, by the way, an active scholarly conversation. In February 2024, 4 researchers, Jing Zhang, Xianjie-Ping, Wei Chen, and Da Dong, published a paper in Humanities and Social Sciences Communications, a Nature Portfolio journal, titled Beyond Substantiality and Illusion, The Problem of the Self in Buddhist Constructivism. Their paper does the bridging move I just made, but using Buddhist constructivism rather than Hindu Advaita as the contemplative tradition anchor. The framework they use is the 5 aggregates and the middle way. The point I want to flag is that this work is happening at the level of peer-reviewed scholarship right now. The convergence is not idiosyncratic documentary speculation. It is published academic philosophy. 1,200 years before Botvinick and Cohen, people sitting in caves in southern India were running, in slow phenomenological time, the same investigation that runs today in fluorescent-lit labs at EPFL. That tells us something about the phenomenon being investigated. The contemporary philosopher who has done the most rigorous work on this kind of cross-tradition convergence is Evan Thompson at the University of British Columbia, whose 2014 book, Waking, Dreaming, Being, we mentioned in our previous investigation. Thompson is careful about exactly the distinction I drew above. The structural insight is real. The metaphysical commitments differ. What converges is the method. A New Yorker essay. I want to step sideways for a few minutes because there is a piece of writing that, more than any other I have read, captures the lived experience of what we have been investigating. It is not a film tonight, it is an essay. The essay is by Joshua Rothman, a staff writer at The New Yorker. He writes a column there called Open Questions that takes a single philosophical or psychological question and walks through it with care. The essay I want to mention is titled, Are You the Same Person You Used to Be? Rothman is not a neuroscientist. He is a careful literary journalist asking the question through everyday human experience. He notices that the person he was at 20 has views he no longer holds, made choices he would not now make, loved people he no longer loves, and yet was him. The continuity that links the 20-year-old to the present writer is something less than a stable identity and something more than nothing. Rothman walks through philosophical positions on personal identity, the bundle theory, the narrative theory, Derek Parfit's reductionism, and lands on something that is more useful than any single theoretical position. He suggests that the question itself, are you the same person you used to be, does not have a clean yes or no answer because the concept of being the same person is not as well defined as we usually treat it. Personal identity is not a thing you have. It is a story you keep telling about a sequence of experiences that share certain continuities and not others. Reading Rothman alongside the cognitive neuroscience produces a particular feeling. The science gives you the mechanism. Rothman gives you the lived consequences. The you who was eating breakfast yesterday is connected to the you remembering it now by a thread of bodily continuity, neural continuity, narrative continuity, social continuity. None of those threads alone is the self. The bundle of them is what you have. The bundle is real. The bundle is also not what we usually take it to be when we say, I. If you want to read the essay, it is at The New Yorker. The column is Open Questions. Rothman publishes regularly, and the back catalogue is worth your time. The essay does what good cultural criticism does. It holds the destabilizing scientific finding in literary care so that the finding does not become a weapon and does not become a fad and does not become content for thought leadership. The finding becomes an experience. The experience of having spent 20 minutes thinking carefully about whether you are the same person you used to be and finding that the question is more interesting than the available answers. That is what we are doing here as well. So I want to close by being explicit about what this whole investigation does and does not mean, because the topic of the self is constructed is genuinely psychologically destabilizing if delivered carelessly, and the audience for documentary content in 2026 deserves the careful version. The cognitive neuroscience of bodily self-consciousness does not mean you are not real. It does not mean your relationships are illusions, your commitments are irrelevant, your memory of yesterday's breakfast is fake, or that nothing matters because the self is a construction. Those conclusions do not follow from the science. They are misreadings. What the science means is more modest and more interesting. The felt experience of being a unified, continuous self is a real cognitive achievement, a sophisticated computation that the brain runs continuously to produce the experience of being you. Like all cognitive achievements, it has a mechanism. The mechanism can be studied. The mechanism can, under carefully designed conditions, be experimentally disrupted. None of that diminishes the achievement. None of that diminishes the experience. A useful analogy: the fact that a beautiful piece of music is produced by air vibrating at specific frequencies, processed by hair cells in the cochlea, encoded into neural firing patterns, and integrated by auditory cortex into the experience of melody. None of that diminishes the music. The mechanism is the music. Understanding the mechanism does not eliminate the experience. The same is true here. Understanding that the self is a construction does not eliminate the self. It deepens what we mean by being a self. The construction is what consciousness is. The construction is what you are. Hold the careful version. If you want to read further, Botvinick and Cohen, 1998. Nature is the foundational paper, freely accessible in archive form. Lenggenhager et al., 2007. Science is the deeper finding. Zakiri's 2010. Neuropsychologia is the framework synthesis. Blanca and Metzinger, 2009. Trends in Cognitive Sciences is the conceptual paper that names minimal phenomenal selfhood. For a peer-reviewed scholarly bridge between this neuroscience and contemplative tradition, Zhang, Ping, Chen, and Dong's 2024 paper in Humanities and Social Sciences Communications is freely available online. For an accessible popular science companion that walks through this entire territory in book form, Rubber Hand Illusions, Out-of-Body Experiences, Cotard's Syndrome, Body Integrity Identity Disorder, Anil Ananthaswamy's 2015 book The Man Who Wasn't There, published by Dutton, is the careful read. For the contemplative side, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is available in multiple English translations through standard scholarly archives. Thompson's Waking, Dreaming, Being remains the most rigorous philosophical bridge text, and Joshua Rothman's New Yorker column is, as I said, worth reading on its own terms. The next investigation is already taking shape. The question we keep returning to is the one that sits underneath all three of these: perception, decision, self. The question of observation. What does it mean that there is a system that observes itself? What did John Wheeler actually say in 1983 when he proposed that observers might be necessary to the universe? And what has popular treatment made him say that he did not? We have several days of reading ahead before that one is ready, but it is coming. Until then, take care, and don't forget to share this video with like-minded friends.